everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. I hope everyone is having a very happy holidays and had a very Merry Christmas. If you are a Christmas freak like I am, I hope you are celebrating the 12 days of Christmas still into the new year. I have a very special episode to end 2024, and that is another installment of Exploring the Warner Archive. I thought, what better way to end the year than exploring one of my absolute favorite labels. I love digging into anything and everything they release. There's a good array of new releases, but I also like spotlighting some older titles. So there's going to be a good mixture here. All good stuff that I'm excited to show off. So I'm just going to dive right in to one of the most exciting developments for Warner Archive, and that is their first official 4K Ultra HD release, which is John Wayne's The Searchers, also John Ford's The Searchers. So the Warner Archive has released 4Ks technically through just like their manufacturer on demand service with like certain newer releases like Cry Macho and King Richard and stuff. This is the first like Warner Archive branded 4K release. This isn't just something that has been farmed out to the Warner Archive. They have their fingerprints all over this. And this is the first of hopefully many 4K Ultra HD releases. And they've really put a lot of work into this. Just for those who don't know, The Searchers, classic John Wayne Western, one of his most famous collaborations with John Ford, about a man who is a little bit morally murky, but he ends up on like a years-long odyssey to find the family that has been abducted by a Native American tribe and try to get them back, along with some people in his party that continues to whittle down as more people get killed over the years. There's some really problematic aspects regarding kind of like the depictions of Native Americans in this movies, but it's also an expertly constructed Western that is it's considered a classic for a reason. It's just like beautifully shot, beautifully structured, and just like very gripping throughout. I do like the moral complexity of the John Wayne character and just how it all kind of ties together. He gives a great performance, and just it's a very layered movie. And while it may not be my absolute favorite John Wayne outing, it is a really, really great movie. And I think it is very fitting that it is the first 4K Ultra HD release. So this has been given recently a 4K restoration from the original VistaVision negative. And it looks incredible. This was presented in Dolby Vision, which a lot of Warner proper titles, like Warner Home Video titles, are not given Dolby Vision, but this has been given a Dolby Vision HDR treatment. It has been encoded by Fidelity in Motion. For those who are deep into the physical media game, they know that is the highest recommendation because they do impeccable encoding. So this is encoded perfectly from a beautiful 4K restoration in Dolby Vision. You really couldn't ask for more for this first outing. They've really made sure that this is going to go off without a hitch. It's a beautiful treatment. I had the old HD DVD, if you remember those. I still had that in my collection. And just being it, like going from one source to another to see the new 4K restoration compared to that old transfer, which the Blu-ray was also sourced from. It was just the previous Blu-ray. It was a night and day difference. This is an impeccable upgrade. And not only is the 4K a really nice transfer, the Blu-ray that is included in here is also been newly remastered from the 4K restoration. That is also available separately. But if you are Blu-ray capable and just want to future-proof, get this 4K because you get both. You can watch the Blu-ray now, and then if you ever upgrade, you already have the 4K on hand. And it's not that much of a price difference. It's just a few dollars, and I think it's worth it for this one. And considering the amount of care they put into it, I think it is very much worth that just extra couple dollars to future-proof. This is also one of the first singular titles to have a slipcover from Warner Archive. There have been a few boxes like the Hanna-Barbera Superstars 10 set that came out earlier this year, that and like some of the TV sets, they come in boxes, but for as far as slipcovers, you haven't really gotten that much on the Warner Archive side. So that is also just like this nice, beautiful original artwork. Fantastic attention to detail on all levels from Warner Archive. I'm super impressed. It has the audio, it is the mono audio has been remastered. It sounds really nice and natural. No real damage or anything. This is just an A+ release, like across the board, in my opinion. They've carried over, I believe, all the existing special features, which include a archival commentary track, a couple of featurettes, a behind the scenes piece, some outtakes, a trailer. Really just, if you're, what a way to end 2024. And they have, I don't want people who are following Warner Archive to expect every release moving forward to be like given a 4K upgrade, but key titles, probably like I've heard are in the range of, at least starting out, maybe like 5 to 6 titles a year will be given the 4K treatment, and probably some of these bigger marquee titles I would expect maybe to see like The Adventures of Robin Hood or something like that in the future. But nothing is confirmed. But just know that as we as consumers support this format more, I think it'll be more likely that we do get an uptick in 4K upgrades as we move forward in time. So if you are a fan of seeing stuff in 4K, make sure to support this release. It is top tier. But also keep supporting their regular Blu-ray releases, because they also do a really good job there. So The Searchers from Warner Archive, fantastic release. My highest recommendation. But that is not all that is new for December. We also have a really interesting movie from Ann Sheridan. This is Nora Prentiss. So this is about a man a married doctor who's just kind of living kind of a mundane life. And he kind of gets it in his head that maybe he needs to kind of break out of his kind of mundane existence whenever he meets Nora Prentiss here, played by Ann Sheridan. And he starts an affair with her, and it really spirals out of control in grand fashion. It is pretty wild how quickly some of this escalates and where it goes by the end. But is Ann Sheridan worth wrecking your life over? Debatable by some people, but she is a very lovely woman. But the man's wife also seemed lovely, so this guy seemed a little bit like a fool. But it is a very interesting movie, despite me just like pulling my hair out at some of the choices that these characters make, just regarding how things just continue to just pile on top of one after another. If you read the back, you'll probably get a little bit more of a spoiler-filled sense of where this film goes. I'm not going to go that direction, but it is a very engaging movie. I liked it quite a bit. The performances are great. Ann Sheridan is a magnetic screen presence, and I really love just like, she wasn't just like your typical femme fatale. She had some depth, and she really made you care for her, even though she was like the typical like other woman. There's a little bit more depth to her, which I really appreciated that she brought to the role. This Blu-ray presentation is fantastic. You do get a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative. It looks fantastic. Original mono audio has been encoded very well. It's a nice, even presentation. No lingering damage or anything. This is Warner Archive and their motion picture imaging group just working like at the height of their powers. Just they keep knocking out of the park, and this looks very nice. Sounds really great too. No real shortcomings in terms of like dropouts or hissing or anything like that. You do get a cartoon, a short film, and a trailer. So if you're a fan of this film, it's been handled very well. If you like kind of noirish, like melodramas, this one is definitely worth checking out. It is quite entertaining. And that leads us to another title with the great Cary Grant. That is Mr. Lucky, co-starring Lorraine Day. This is about Cary Grant playing a scoundrel. Who would have thought? Playing a scoundrel who is trying to attempt to dodge the draft, assumes a new identity and kind of gets himself ingrained in this war relief group headed by Lorraine Day. So it's a group of women trying to raise funds to support the troops, and him trying to use his con men abilities to try to help them, but also try to help himself avoid being drafted. And it's just like a lovable rogue, his journey from like being a scoundrel to potentially a sense of redemption, and how that kind of his old life clashing with his new hopeful life, and just how that kind of escalates over the narrative. I really like this. I'm a big fan of Cary Grant. This was a very engaging role for him. I think it was perfect for him, and he just uses his full charm to really just really control this movie in a really good way. I really like this quite a bit, and this Blu-ray is also fantastic. 4K restoration of the original camera negative. This will be a common refrain on this episode and with most Warner Archive titles. Looks great, no damage, really great encoding. Everything holds together very well. You do get the remastered audio, sounds great in mono. 2 radio versions of this story are included, and a trailer in terms of special features. So Cary Grant fans, Mr. Lucky is another one you can mark off the list as being upgraded. This has been treated very well. Something a little bit different. What I thought was a blaxploitation movie at first really just turned out to be kind of a film noir starring a black man, and that is Black Eye. And this is kind of like your classic detective tale that I really appreciated this because it really took things seriously about a man who is like a former cop turned private eye who ends up getting mixed up in a murder case and having to try to track down what exactly is going on, and like this, like the conspiracy behind everything, and what it just there's revelation after revelation that really kind of ratchets up like what is going on in this kind of seaside town, and what like everything is really interesting. And it's from this perspective that wasn't really taken seriously or represented on screen a lot, especially at this time. And I do like how this was handled, and it was a very engaging kind of detective tale. And so this starred Fred Williamson. He does a really great job here. Some of the plot stuff can get a little out there or a little just like unwieldy, but overall it's a very entertaining movie. It's put together very well, and seeing this on Blu-ray for the first time, it looked great. So this also comes from a 4K restoration of the original camera negative. Looks very nice, vibrant colors, no damage, just handled very well. Just a really, really nice handling of this transfer. Not much in the way of special features, just a trailer. But if you just want a Fred Williamson movie in beautiful HD, this is another one that you can add to your collection because it looks fantastic and it's been handled very well by the Warner Archive. A somewhat unusual for this line, but also very welcome, is Lena Wertmüller's Night Full of Rain, or technically, aka, I have to read it, The End of the World in Our Usual Bed in a Night Full of Rain. That's like they also known as title if you really want to get technical with it. So for those who don't know, Lena Wertmüller, she is probably best known for being the first woman to be nominated for Best Director. She is a European director who's making her first English language film with this film. So it stars her frequent collaborator, Giancarlo Gianni, and it has American actress Candice Bergen coming in. And it's like a relationship drama, largely improvised dialogue-wise, but it's it definitely retains her European sensibilities. It's very kind of meditative and just like raw, these two people that's kind of like oil and water mixing, and they like kind of get into various spats and everything, and how this kind of is set a little bit differently within like kind of the romantic drama confines, is that there are often little cutaways to groups that it's almost like a Greek chorus that are commenting on the action and like their relationship. So they're like men and women who are kind of like doing a little bit of commentary, like social commentary on like maybe who is like what these characters might be thinking, what like how the sexual politics between men and women, how that kind of factors into everything. Not everything is as progressive as we might think of now, but for this time, I think there are some interesting ideas injected. And I think that is what makes this movie work the most. It's just like kind of that third party assessment of how this relationship is developing. But other than that, whenever we're just focused on the two characters, I do have to admit I wasn't the most engaged. I think it's because I wasn't ever really rooting for this couple to make it. So whenever they were having their kind of various spats, I would sometimes find myself a little bit checked out. So this isn't like my most widely endorsed Warner Archive title. I do appreciate aspects of it, and as I watch it more, I will probably grow to appreciate different things a little bit more. But upon this first viewing and just kind of the dynamic between these characters, it wasn't my favorite movie. It's just kind of passable for me. But it has been taken care of very well by the Warner Archive. You do get a 4K restoration of the original camera negative. Looks fantastic. It's nice, natural film grain, encoded very well. No shortcomings as far as I could tell. Original mono audio and a trailer in terms of special features. Nothing else besides that. But that is very nice. So my next title, I have a somewhat amusing story. I think it's amusing. Is The Tall Target, which is a movie. I had an idea of what this was about. Just kind of, I figured it would be like a standard film noir just based on the title. And then once I started watching it, I was like, oh, this title makes perfect sense because The Tall Target is actually Abraham Lincoln. This is a story about a agent played by Dick Powell who is on a train trying to prevent a potential assassination on Abraham Lincoln before he's able to be sworn into office. So Abraham Lincoln is a tall target. But I found this very gripping. I liked it quite a bit. It's like, if you like a confined thriller, this one really hits all the notes for me. This is a very short film. It's only an hour and 18 minutes long, but it uses every moment very well. If you just like an agent on a train trying to suss out who on the train might be a good guy or a bad guy, just everything, like it moves along very well. And I loved it. It's a very good movie. Dick Powell does a really good job. There's not too many plot contrivances, and it worked very well for me. So this one has been given a 4K restoration from the best preservation elements, and that holds up still very well. It's not the original camera negative completely, but it holds up very well. Looks really nice. Nice black and white. Like the contrast levels are firm. No damage, not much in the way of like soft images from like not being an original camera negative. It just looks very nice. You probably wouldn't even know it wasn't the original camera negative. It DTS 2.0 mono audio, split channel, looks great, or sounds great. In terms of special features, we have a radio play version of the story. We have 2 restored cartoons and a trailer. So of the new releases, besides The Searchers, which is just on another level, The Tall Target might be my favorite recommendation to throw out here. This one was really fun. And our last new title is a swashbuckling tale called The Spanish Main. So here we have Paul Henreid, Maureen O'Hara, and Walter Slezak. So this is about I love me some lovable rogues. This is a roguish, swashbuckling pirate who is on he gets imprisoned and then gets released, breaks out from prison under like this Spanish tyrant, and just him coming across a hybrid lady played by Maureen O'Hara, and like them kind of getting into kind of a unlikely romance, and just this tyrant of a Spanish ruler just trying to be a real jerk. That's like the most simple way to say it. But this, if you love a swashbuckling tale, like this isn't Errol Flynn, but if you like a lot of those like Errol Flynn swashbucklers, this will kind of scratch that itch. It is from one of my favorite of the Golden Age director, Frank Borzage. I'm probably saying that wrong, but I do love his work. And it's just a really fun, like lively time. And this has been given a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative. Looks great. Mono sounds great. It's a really just impeccable release. A short film, 2 restored cartoons, and a trailer for your special features, and you got the makings of a great release. So the Spanish Main, really good way to close out the newer releases from the Warner Archive. But this is not the last we would see of Maureen O'Hara, because I decided to spotlight another movie starring her and Henry Fonda. We're going back to 2017's release of Spencer's Mountain. Now, people may know this best for being kind of the inspiration for the Waltons. It's from the same kind of source material. So if you've ever seen the Waltons, you kind of get a little bit of a sense of what this movie is. Maureen O'Hara plays the matriarchs, but Henry Fonda plays the patriarch of this family with tons of kids. There's like 7 kids here, and they're unlike the Waltons, which takes place in like Appalachia. This takes place in like the Wyoming mountains and territory. And it's about this, mainly the thrust of this is the oldest son is getting to graduation age, and the struggle to whether or not he is going to be able to continue on to college, whether or not this family can raise money for him to go to college, whether they can spare him to like leave the family behind to go out and stuff, and just kind of all the complications around that. I like this one pretty well. There's some kind of overly like cloying moments at points where it kind of gets a little bit overly sentimental. But overall, I think this was a very overall engaging movie. I like a warm like family movie, and just like kind of all the drama that goes around there. Henry Fonda does a really nice job, and there were just a few things that just kind of like character choices, kind of near the, I won't spoil anything, but some of the characters get themselves into some really harrowing situations, which I think could have been avoided, which is a little bit more clear communication, but it is a movie. But otherwise, I thought I do like kind of like the small charm of this kind of story, and I like the actors who are in it. This was from 2017. I believe I could not track down the specific source. Based on history, I would assume that's a 2K scan of the inner positive. It looks very nice. It's consistent, colorful, vibrant, no damage. It's just a really nice transfer. You do get a little short documentary on the premiere of this movie, which was outside of Hollywood. It's kind of more in like a rural area, which is fun. You get a interview from Henry Fonda and a trailer. So overall, if you like kind of Waltons-esque territory, Spencer's Mountain will do you well. It's right at 2 hours long, but I never felt bored by it. So that's something. Spencer's Mountain, worth checking out. But also, I love connecting things, and we are going with another Henry Fonda vehicle with Glenn Ford, and we're going over to The Rounders, which is also from a 2017 Warner Archive release. And I like this one quite a bit. I like kind of Western tales, and this one is about Glenn Ford and Henry Fonda playing a pair of Bronco busters. If you need someone to come in and kind of break wild horses, The Rounders, that's their whole deal. But they are up against like one of the most ornery horses that they've ever come across. And this is a lot of this film is like them trying to break this kind of like wild horse who does not want anything to do with anyone, and whether or not they can accomplish that, how that will impact their financial future for this man who is constantly or consistently hiring them every year, taking advantage of them to some extent, and just like how these two kind of lovable like Bronco busters are going to fare at the end of the day. One thing I want to note, I was surprised that I watched this like maybe the day before, like maybe Christmas Eve or so. I can't remember, somewhere around that area. There is a Christmas scene in this movie, so that was like a nice surprise that I enjoyed, full with like a Christmas song and everything like that, and a Christmas celebration. I really like this movie. I do think it falls apart a little bit at the end. It goes into some directions I do not think were really necessary. Mostly like here you can kind of see kind of it starts like a kind of overly like sexualization of women whenever the story did not really need it. And it just seems to come like these men, yeah, they kind of like are flirtatious a little bit at the beginning of the movie, but it just really, the last 20 minutes just really goes in a different direction. And I didn't really love that. It didn't ruin the movie, but I was really having fun with the movie before that. And then it just kind of shifted into a lane that it did not really land particularly well for me. But overall, still really appreciate it and enjoy it. And if you're a fan of Glenn Ford or Henry Fonda, definitely worth checking out. So this comes from a 2K scan of the Inner Positive. Looks great, vibrant colors, la 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 la. Everything I say for Warner Archive, this is encompassed in here. It's a really great transfer. Audio sounds great. This does not come with any special features beside the trailer, but worth checking out if you're a fan of these stars. Sticking in kind of a lighter territory, we have a rom-com starring James Garner and Leigh Remick, and that is The Wheeler Dealers. Another one from their 2017 slate. This is James Garner as a very wealthy man who may potentially, if he does not strike oil soon, become a very poor man, but he goes off to work some investments and work some angles. He's the type of man, he's a wheeler dealer, who is always working angles, trying to make sure that he mitigates any losses, make sure he passes that along to the government, and he has fun while doing it, just making deals and like buying stuff. And he comes across Leigh Remick, who is a woman who is like working in the stock market area, and it's like there's a big plot point about men underestimating women in this area, and her trying to like legitimize herself and the other women in her field, and are actually a lot smarter than a lot of the men, and how they just are constantly undervalued. So there's some really progressive notions in this that I do appreciate. There's also some very regressive notions that I do not appreciate. But I think overall there's a net positive to this in that respect. Leigh Remick is a really like strong character who holds her own pretty well. She has a good dynamic and repartee with James Garner. And overall, I think this is just a really like, they're kind of like tete-a-tete of just like James Garner being like this Texan who's like big and gregarious and stuff, and her not really knowing what to do with him, but like kind of getting like on board with his whole shtick. Overall, it's a very pleasant, fun experience. If you like a rom-com of just like unlikely like suitors and just like all that kind of stuff, I think you'll have fun. I had fun with this. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And Leigh Remick is just a gem. I love her. And James Garner, he's always a lot of fun. Another 2K scan of the Inner Positive. Looks great. No deficiencies, as far as I can tell. Encoded very well. DTS 2.0 audio sounds great. Just a trailer in terms of special features. But once again, if you like rom-coms, The Wheeler Dealers, you can do worse than that. But as I mentioned, this is not the last we would see of James Garner, because a little bit more serious side, we have him in 36 Hours. This is a wartime tale in which he plays a member of the government services who ends up getting captured by the German forces and during World War II, and gets kind of mixed. He like gets kind of brainwashed and like to forgetting who he was, and he starts to take part in an experiment where the German forces believe that they can kind of like like brainwash people and trick them into believing that they are like years into the future after the Germans have lost, and kind of convince them that the US has already won the war, and through that method get them to potentially give up some key pieces of information that the Germans might can use against the US forces. And so they're kind of like gaslighting this man into think it's in the future after the US has won the war. And through that, like everyone on the base that he is kind of held at has to pretend to be American. So you have Eva Marie Saint pretending to be his wife, who he doesn't remember. She is like a woman who was in a concentration camp who is like being put up to this. You also have Rod Taylor as kind of like the kind of leader of this experiment. It's a really interesting movie, a real kind of paranoid thriller that's a little bit heightened, but you can kind of see the vision of like what they like, where the paranoia around this time, like where it could potentially go to, and like what they thought could happen. James Garner, I like how he plays this role. I won't tell you whether or not he like figures out what's happening or anything like that, but how this develops, I found it very interesting, and like it's paced pretty well. And I think it's a very worthy thriller if you're into that kind of thing. I liked it quite a bit, and this does come from 2017 2K scan of the Fine Grain Safety Master. Looks very nice, black and white movie, holds up very well. It's just a really nice transfer. Did not notice any major deficiencies, maybe a little soft like here and there, especially like whenever doing any optical transitions, but that is par for the course for this type of like filming. No special features besides a trailer, but everything else holds up pretty well. 36 hours. It's a fun little wartime tale if you are into it. Another one, this one starring Robert Mitchum, we got Home from the Hill. This is for those who like giant melodramatic epics, like a Giant or something like this, because this is 2.5 hours of just family drama. Robert Mitchum plays kind of an asshole patriarch who's like the big shot in town who kind of runs everything. He like has affairs and stuff, and he is trying to raise a son who's like your typical mama's boy, and trying to like after his son gets humiliated through like a prank played by some of the men in town. The son kind of becomes radicalized to become like a man and learn how to hunt, and kind of gives up his kind of schooling to like really become like someone who can handle themselves and stuff. And it's really dealing with a lot of like toxic masculinity and how expectations of like this father, played by Robert Mitchum, not really being much of a father figure. He has this bastard son who is played by George Papard, who is also kind of working on the kind of farm that they have and stuff. So there's a lot of like really melodramatic things going on, and just like within this family. And if you like kind of that kind of epic scope drama, it works very well. The things that happen throughout this, and revelations, it works very well. George Hamilton plays the son who's like was humiliated, who kind of becomes radicalized. Eleanor Parker plays the matriarch. There's a lot of good people in here, and overall good for like that kind of melodrama. This was from their 2018 slate. They came out in 2018. This was probably from a 2K scan of the Inner Positive. I could not get confirmation either way, but it does look very nice. It holds up every bit as well as you expect from a Warner Archive transfer to. Nice, robust colors, no damage. Everything just holds up well. DTS 2.0 audio sounds great. And then you have a trailer in terms of special features. Good disc. If you're a Robert Mitchum fan, as I am, check it out. Definitely him on more his like skeevy side. Going all the way back to their 2014 release, back in the early days of Warner Archive. Early days, but still not, shouldn't forget it. This is Pete Kelly's Blues. So this is Jack Webb as the titular Pete Kelly. This is a mixture of music film and crime film, where he plays a jazz musician who kind of, him and his like band of people that he plays with start getting leaned on by a local kind of mobster type, and just like if they do not agree to let him be their manager, he starts to kind of mess things up for them, and how that kind of escalates and stuff, and whether or not he is willing to be under the thumb of this man, and how this just kind of escalates. So you have Janet Leigh in a supporting role as kind of a love interest. You have Peggy Lee as like a washed up like alcoholic singer who's like kind of forced into their band. Everyone does a really nice job. Jack Webb also directs this. I do think that maybe he should have picked one or the other, because I probably would have say like keep with the directing, maybe find another a little bit more charismatic person to be the star. Oh, he does a good job, but I just don't think he does a particularly great job. I think he needed a little bit someone with a little bit more chemistry with Janet Leigh, but overall, I did like it in terms of like a music turn crime film. It works pretty well. In terms of this, most likely a 2K scan of the inner positive. Once again, I could not get confirmation. Even though this was the early days, this still holds up very well, even a decade after this was released. It's a very nice transfer. They have gotten better, as like Warner Archive has gotten better with their processes as they've went along. But this is no slouch. This still looks very nice. It's a respectable transfer. So if you are interested in this at all, it holds up very well. You do get a DTS 5.1 soundtrack. It sounds really great. You get 2 short films and a couple of trailers. So Pete Kelly's Blues, check it out. Going back to something a little bit more lighter, to kind of like land the plane a little bit in a lighter territory. We got 2 more. The first of which is Bells Are Ringing. So this is a movie with Judy Holliday and Dean Martin. So Judy Holliday, in this one, she works at kind of a phone operator service where you can kind of like request wake up calls and just like call for whatever purposes that you need. She just works as like a phone operator, but she is someone who gets a little bit overly invested in the people who call in. People love her for it, but her boss is often trying to get her to not make things personal and kind of keep things moving along so they can keep making money and all that stuff. But she's a little bit overly invested in Dean Martin's life. She pretends to be like an older woman who's like a matriarchal figure to him, but she quietly has developed a little crush on him just over the phone, of just kind of keeping his life going. But they end up meeting in real life, and she kind of keeps the fact that she is this old woman who's been talking to him for the longest time a secret, and just kind of that's kind of the core conflict of like she kind of starts this kind of potential relationship on a lie, and just how that kind of develops. There's like a side plot that involves like money laundering and stuff that goes on, but the main thrust of things is like this kind of answering service and like this kind of screwball comedy. Overall I like it quite a bit. Judy Holliday is magnetic, fantastic. I did not love Dean Martin in this like lead role opposite her. He does fine, but I need a little bit something more from him. But overall, it's still really good. Judy Holliday is doing the heavy lifting here for me, and she does a really good job. It's a pretty funny movie. I laughed quite a bit. You get a 2K scan of the inner positive. Looks fantastic, colorful, great encoding, no damage, just holds up very well. No blemishes from what I could tell. DTS 5.1 audio, sounds great. You do get an 11-minute featurette, some outtakes, a trailer. Overall, really solid release from the Warner Archive. And finally, heading back to 2014, another early release. We are ending with a musical. Anyone who watches this regularly knows I love me a good musical, and this one is Hit the Deck. So this one, it may not be the best known because it doesn't have like it's not the most star-studded. The biggest male star I would say is Russ Tamblyn. But the women, that's where we get talking here. We get Jane Powell, we get Debbie Reynolds, we get Ann Miller. So Jane Powell has actually worked with Russ Tamblyn before on Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, which I talked about earlier this year. And this one, it's a pretty fun movie. It's about like a group of sailors who kind of the escapades they get up to when they're on leave, and There's like some family drama going on here. All kinds of crazy stuff going on here. There's the women, they do a fantastic job. The men do too. They're just a little bit more anonymous. Debbie Reynolds is paired up with Russ Tamblyn for most of the movie, and that's kind of the pair I like the most. There's a really weird scene where they like come into conflict with the devil. It's a really interestingly staged scene that I thought was an interesting take on things. But overall, it's a fun, like, hopping musical. It doesn't take up like dramatic territory or anything. It's just like sailors having fun, getting into escapades, and just like good songs, nice dancing, all that stuff. So Hit the Deck, fun little musical to end stuff this time. This comes from a 2K scan. Looks very nice. Like I said, even though it's a decade old, holds up very nice, very colorful, no blemishes. DTS 5.1 sound, you kind of want that for a musical to sound very full and vivacious. It holds up just beautifully. You only get a trailer, but in terms of the presentation, no reservations there. Hit the Deck is a really fun movie. And that is all. That is my full slate. I hope you found a little bit of something from their new slate, from their older slate. Make sure to keep supporting Warner Archive. They are one of the best in the business. I love them so much, and I just look forward to everything they have already announced in 2025, everything that could been teased for 2025. It's going to be a great year. And speaking of 2025, I just want to give a quick thanks for everyone who has supported me this year, for those who were originally with me on the Video Attic and now are with me with No Streaming Required. I appreciate you following me to this show. I really enjoy doing this for you. If you enjoy it, please leave a comment. I love hearing from you. Make sure to share this with anyone that you think might like this. Give them the gift of physical media in their YouTube algorithm. I love doing this every week. I will be back again next week. Once again, thank you for supporting, and subscribe to the Geek Vibes Nation YouTube channel to stay informed. I will see you next week, but until then, enjoy these movies.
All right, there have been others, but you can put an end to that. You just unlock your door. Tonight if you want to. Right now if you want to.
Shall I tell you why you still find me attractive after all these years? Because you can't have me.